2/3 of men under 30 are single. And again, people lie about these numbers.
2/3.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't know that stat. 2/3 of men 18 to 30 are single. And I think the numbers are really higher because most people, when they say they're in a relationship, they're in a situationship. And, or maybe not most, but a very large amount. And I don't count situationships as relationships. And I can see the pain in your face.
Well, not to interrupt the train of thought, but the almost singular piece of advice I've been giving my son since he's graduated high school is I don't care about any other part of what you decide to do with your life. Find a woman that shares your values and team up with it.
That's very Italian. My father, growing up, said the only thing that matters in life is honor, Rudyard. I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you're a failure. I care that you have honor.
It is very Italian. You're right. It is very like it is a very inherited, multi-generational Sicilian, I trust no one but the family.
Yes.
Have the family is everything perspective.
When Uncle Tony from Palermo had all of his money stolen from the mafia, he could support on his wife, and then they moved out to Syria, and then they moved out to Messina, and it was all fine. But he trusted in his wife.
Wait, is this a hypothetical? Or you
No,
actually have an Uncle Tony?
No, I made all of this up.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of an Italian chain of logic.
Yes, yes. Okay. But all right, so keep going. So you got this 2/3 of your generation.
I'm named Rudyard William Lynch. Where's the Italian in that name?
I know. It's the Roman Empire, baby. We got around.
Yeah. So so a third of men under 30 are virgins. Again, I assume that's an undercount. And so this is a huge issue. And
So this is the incel revolution, which is one
exactly,
of your videos.
yes. And so let's say you work all the jobs and then you can't afford to have a family or you can't get laid. What's the point of working the job if there's not the reproductive payoff? So that's one. Second thing is you can't afford a house to support kids because that's through the roof. And keep in mind, young people spend 2/3 of their income on rent.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, I did that when I got out of school. I worked in Viacom at New York City. I didn't make enough. I was just racking up credit card debt, and 2/3 of my income was the rent. That's exactly what it was.
That's also New York City, though. Like New York City.
No, all of America is New York City. It seems.
Exactly, yes. But New York City is a peripheral. Like New York City is a horrible example. That might have been normal when you were in New York City, but now that's the whole country. And it also rent is money that's not. It's not like economically reproductive. So there's certain.
It's not an investment in
exactly,
an asset.
yes. And so that's a second thing. So you have mating issue, you have rent issue. That's
What's the heart of the mating issue? Very briefly, because I mean, Chris Williamson spends a lot of time on this kind of stuff.
Yes. So the shortest answer I could give is I would say it's heavily an economics issue due to the structure of dating apps, where dating apps, and I'm friends with a lot of like dating content creators. This is something Homath has also said, that dating apps are the thing that killed it. Where you look at the chart of male virginity, it jumps from 8% when the iPhone was invented, and then it immediately went up to 27% over a 10-year period. And that's due to the introduction of dating apps. And keep in mind, over 60% of relationships today are started online. For Gen Z, I'm going to guess it's higher. And
this is like the harem effect. It's like
exactly.
One high status male attracts all of the attention of the females, and the disparities there leave everybody else like, oh, what are you, under 6'2"? Forget it.
And I think I blame dating apps the most because if you were to go back to like 2015, this is a much healthier ecosystem, and there was still feminism, there was still all these other things, and then the dating apps and the screens. And when people give dating advice, the most common dating advice is go to group events, go to community stuff. But if you look at what the average Zoomer does, the average Zoomer spends 8 hours a day on screens. I think even independent from work. And so what that means is no one's going outside. Yes. And so if no one's going outside, that creates an issue. And I look at...
It's the problem of, even from a parenting young kids perspective, if you want to send your kids outside, and no one's outside's super boring. And so pretty quickly you're like, well, I put you in the backyard and you're there kicking dust around, and after 30 minutes, I kind of understand you don't want to stay outside because no one's outside.
Outside's a parking lot. And because people say, I mean, it also annoys me. People say, Rudyard, you should touch grass. And like, I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. I've lived in 7 countries. I've traveled around the country. I've done a lot of cool stuff. Going outside is what got me to believe this stuff because I talked to people outside and they were not satisfied. And outside, I was on the Tom Bilyeu podcast and I was in West Hollywood and I thought, I'm going to run a test. I'm going to walk around for an hour. And if there's a homeless guy in this wealthiest, if I'm basically I'm going to sightsee the homeless in West Hollywood, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the world. And there was this homeless guy doing PTSD shakes and screaming, I want to hurt someone. And I thought, there's no reason for this. This neighborhood's very wealthy. You could choose not to have this guy here, but it's a sign that's outside. And
go outside. Oh no, I might have fentanyl needles thrown at me from a crazy person.
Fentanyl's Philly's greatest export recently. It's from Kensington. And
yeah.
So
the dating situation is a complete catastrophe.
Dating apps would be the second most unequal country in the world today, where it would be behind South Africa and ahead of Venezuela. And it's the worst possible equilibrium because I know lots of guys in that top 20% and they don't like it either, where the guys who are doing well on the dating apps, hedonism's overrated, I've consistently found. Like the guys in that 20%, they mostly don't actually like being there. Past a certain threshold of hedonism, they do actually want to get a girlfriend or get married or that stuff. But the apps don't sort for that kind of person. And so they sleep with these women as a way to get around not actually having a better alternative. And I think society treats men as more cynical and more basically animalistic than men are. I think most men are actually very kind. I think most men have the natural paternal instinct in them.
Well, one of the things to speak to that, when my son was born, and I've talked about this on the show because in some ways it is the animating force. I was working at Spike TV. My wife, Lisa, we got engaged and the pregnancy happened right around that time. And so we were relatively young. Like, I'm under 50. My son is going to be 20. Would have been normal. Now I don't know anybody that's got kids that old at my age. It was so exciting to become a dad.
Yeah.
It has been the thing that has anchored my reality. I don't care about my political opinions. I don't ultimately care whether my work succeeds or fails. All of that's gravy because of my family and because of especially my son. And but the narrative, like, it's like there was a revolution for men that just didn't get acknowledged. Like my wife and I, and this is true of all of my peers.
Yeah.
We aren't like 1950s men. Like we were changing the diapers and getting up and wearing the backpack on the front thing that Baby Bjorn or whatever the hell that thing was called.
Yeah.
We were doing all that stuff. And yet the public cultural narrative is still like bumbling Al Bundy that doesn't carry his weight.
Yeah.
And like I did this whole ad campaign at Spike TV called True Dads. And it was like, hey, one of the ads was like, we know you, super mom, the work, the kids, but what about you, Dad? Where's your super title?
Yes.
And it's like we just literally never got one. It was like, do better, guys. Do better. It's like we've been doing better. What are you talking? Who are you talking to?
That's a good point because it brings up the point I was going to make. There's no incentive to cooperate inside the system. So you're talking about why someone would show up to work and not do a good job. And I can completely understand that because that was me in school. And if I had a job, I don't think I'd work hard at a job if I had a normal job now. I would be completely disaffected. And I work hard in my current job because I have a sense of investment in it. And also, it's my work. I'm responsible for it. I can do it how I want. I have agency. If you don't give men agency, men aren't going to work.
If you like this clip, you should check out the full video and all the other great content we've got at Dad Saves America. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss our new stuff as it drops each week.